The forest was unusually silent that afternoon, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful but heavy, as if the wind itself is holding its breath. Single father Daniel Walker didn't think much of it at first as he walked the familiar trail with his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, skipping ahead of him, her red sweater glowing like a spark against the autumn leaves. But everything changed the moment Lily suddenly stopped, her tiny voice trembling as she pointed toward the base of an old oak tree. And there, half covered in leaves, was a woman who looked barely alive, motionless, bruised, and fading, as though the forest had tried to swallow her. Daniel felt the world tilt, his heart pounding with the terrifying realization that they hadn't just stumbled upon trouble, they had stumbled upon someone's last moments. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity's quiet miracles, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps keep stories of hope alive. Daniel's first instinct was fear, the kind that grips a parent when danger lurks close. Lily tightened her grip on his hand, staring at the stranger with wide, frightened eyes. The woman's breathing was faint, barely noticeable, her face streaked with dirt and dried blood, and her clothes torn as if she had been running from something terrible. Daniel fought the urge to panic. As a single father who had already endured the heartbreak of losing his wife years earlier, he knew what it meant to stand at the edge of helplessness. But he also knew he couldn't walk away. Not when someone's life depended on him. He knelt beside the woman, feeling the coldness of her skin, the weakness of her pulse, and he whispered a shaky promise, to her, to himself, and to the little girl trembling behind him, that he would not let her die here. The forest suddenly felt enormous, like every second lost could push her closer to the end. Daniel lifted her gently, surprised by how light she felt, as though carrying the weight of her suffering had stripped her of strength. Lily walked ahead, clearing a path through the leaves, glancing back every few seconds with concern far too deep for a child. There was no cell service in the woods, and the nearest main road was almost a mile away. Daniel's breath grew heavier with each step, but he refused to stop. With every movement, he remembered the years he had spent raising Lily alone, the nights when he felt like collapsing but pushed through because someone needed him. Today was no different, someone still needed him. By the time they reached the car, the woman was slipping further into unconsciousness. Daniel wrapped her in his jacket, turned the heater up, and drove faster than he ever had. At the hospital, nurses rushed her away, and the moment the doors closed, the weight of what just happened finally crashed over him. Lily climbed into his lap, her small hands cupping his cheeks, and whispered that she wasn't scared anymore, that she was proud of him. Daniel didn't know why those words made his eyes burn, but they did. Maybe because for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something that truly mattered. Hours later, a doctor approached them with an expression that held both relief and disbelief. The woman, whose name they would learn was Elena, had survived, but only barely. She had been missing for 2 days after an accident in the woods, injured and unable to move, exposed to the cold, waiting for help that never came, until a dad and his little girl appeared at the right moment. The doctor said if another hour had passed, she might not have made it. Daniel sat there stunned, realizing that their simple walk in the woods had rewritten the ending of someone else's story. Over the next few days, Daniel and Lily visited Elena often, bringing flowers Lily picked from their backyard or drawings she scribbled with crayons. Elena's recovery was slow, but every time she opened her eyes, she looked at Daniel with a mixture of gratitude and awe, as though she couldn't fully grasp why he had chosen to help her. Daniel always answered the same way, that he would hope someone would help his daughter if she were ever in trouble. But the truth was deeper. Ever since losing his wife, Daniel had lived with a quiet ache, a feeling that life had taken more than it had given. Helping Elena didn't erase that pain, but it reminded him that purpose often appears in unexpected moments, disguised as a choice that must be made quickly, bravely, and without certainty. Elena eventually shared her story. She had gone to the woods to clear her mind after a painful breakup, wandered off the trail, slipped down a slope, and injured her leg. She had survived the first night, but the second was excruciating. She remembered shouting for help, but the forest swallowed her voice. She thought about her family, the friendships she had lost, the regrets she carried, and at some point, she accepted the possibility that she might not get another chance. The moment she heard Lily's footsteps crunching on dry leaves felt like a miracle she didn't believe she deserved. The bond between the three of them deepened as days turned into weeks. Daniel never expected to feel anything more than sympathy for the fragile stranger they had rescued, but life has a way of weaving new chapters when we least expect it. Elena wasn't just recovering physically, she was rebuilding her spirit, rediscovering the will to move forward. And in her presence, Daniel found parts of himself he didn't know were still alive, the ability to laugh freely, the quiet excitement of waiting for someone's message, the warmth of being seen and appreciated. Lily adored her, too, often asking if Elena could join them for a picnic or read her bedtime stories. Daniel watched these moments unfold with a growing realization that fate sometimes starts quietly, with a choice made on a random afternoon in a lonely forest. Months later, Elena stood under the same oak tree where they had found her, now healthy, smiling, and stronger than before. Daniel and Lily stood beside her, the golden leaves swirling around them like a reminder of how everything began. Elena thanked them not just for saving her life, but for giving her a reason to believe in humanity again. Daniel didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, he felt open to whatever might come next. Maybe second chances weren't just for the ones rescued, they were also for the ones who chose to rescue. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness can change lives, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your engagement helps stories of hope reach more people. Before the story ends, I'd love to know your thoughts. Sparkles, please comment below, what would you have done if you found someone in that condition in the woods? And so, in a world that often feels cold and distant, one single dad, his brave little daughter, and a stranger who refused to give up proved that miracles don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, they appear quietly, in the form of compassion, courage, and the decision to save a life when no one else is watching.